What's up, Liberty lovers? Today's show is sponsored by our friends at ammo.com. There's nothing more American than ordering a stockpile of ammunition and having delivered right to your doorstep. But you know what? It gets even better than that. Not only does ammo.com deliver sweet, beautiful packages of ammunition right to your door, they're also run by libertarians. In fact, you can read an awesome article on their site right now that I've linked to on the show notes page called Locked Up: How the Modern Prison Industrial Complex Puts So Many Americans in Jail. And you know what? It gets even better than that. When you buy at ammo.com, 1% of every single sale, that's gross sale, not net, goes to a libertarian cause of your choosing that you get to pick at checkout. And the best part, the kicker, through the link ammo.com/Lions of Liberty, you get $20 off your order of $200 or more. So support this show, help to spread the ideas of liberty, and buy some ammo to defend your personal liberty. Bam.
What's up, Lions of Liberty fans? You can now support this show on Patreon and get exclusive access to bonus audio and video content, including Conspiracy Corner, Degenerate Gamblers, bonus segments with guests, and so much more. Head on over to patreon.com/Lions of Liberty.
Welcome to Felony Friday, a presentation of the Lions of Liberty podcast. Here is your host, John Odermatt.
Felons, friends, and freedom lovers, welcome back to another episode of Felony Friday, a weekly show right here on the Lions of Liberty podcast. Of course, Felony Friday is the show where every single week I focus on exposing injustice in this nation's broken criminal justice system. And by so doing and telling these stories, I also highlight positive aspects of this. These stories are so incredible. The tragedy, the injustice that these people suffer, and the fact that they're able to pull themselves up and find success after prison, success during their stay in prison, and most importantly, maintaining a positive attitude through this ordeal, which is just incredible. And I have one of those stories for you today. Before we get to that, I want to remind you guys that this show is one of 3 shows on the Lions of Liberty podcast network, the OG, the original variety show. We got some copycats out there. There's some other libertarian podcasts that have a variety type feed, a couple different shows on their feed, but we are the original. Never forget that. And you can subscribe to the original podcast, the original libertarian podcast. We're not the original podcast. But go in on Apple Podcast or Stitcher, wherever you get your podcast, hitting that subscribe button. And when you do that, you're going to get our Monday show with Mark Claire, where Mark interviews leaders in the Liberty movement. He hosts roundtable discussions. You're going to get our Wednesday show, Electric Liberty Land, with Brian McWilliams. It's your weekly shot of culture, comedy, and liberty. And of course, you get today's show, Felony Friday. So be sure to do that. Go subscribe. Leave us a 5-star rating, give us a nice little review. Really helps us out. It really helps us to spread the message of liberty. Let's not hesitate anymore. Let's get right to today's show. The show notes are at lionsofliberty.com/FF159 because it's episode 159. Let's get rolling right into the show. My guest today on Felony Friday is Terry Anderson. Terry was sentenced to 50 years in prison, 30 years for conspiracy to manufacture and distribute, and 20 years for laundering money. She ended up serving 23 of that sentence, and her sentence was commuted. Last year, she got out, July 30th, 2018, and she's here today to share her story. Terry, welcome to Felony Friday.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. And, a lot of times with my guests, when they're sharing their story like this, talking about really their past in prison and really everything they've had to overcome to get to where you are today, which is a free woman, which is a great thing. Before we get into all the details of the arrest, the conviction, and your time in prison, and then getting out finally, I'd like to start at the beginning, just to get an idea of where you grew up, your upbringing, things like that. So if you could just kind of give us an intro to, before you spent any time in prison, What was your life like? Where did you grow up, and what was that period of time like for you?
I grew up in Medbank, Texas. That's where I graduated. And my upbringing, lived in a Christian set home, good family with mother and father. They've been married now for they was married now for 62 years, but my dad just passed away last year right before I got to get out.
Sorry to hear that.
I have two older sisters that are amazing, and I have twin daughters that are 36. And I just lived in a little country town, and I was trying to survive by myself. I let my pride down, and so I just took the wrong road and met a lot of the wrong people. And I don't know, just things happen. But I know I got sentenced in '96, so that was the time when the war on drugs. They had war on drugs at that time. And they had conspiracy and all that. And so I was the first woman in the history of East Texas that they could recall. I have the newspaper clippings of it. That got such a harsh sentence out of the Eastern District of Texas. And I was just a young lady, and was I doing wrong? Absolutely, I did wrong. But was I all that? I was not all that. I was just the youngest one of the whole conspiracy.
How old were you at that time?
32.
And so leading up to that, at what age did you, as you just referenced, you started to get some of the wrong friends and make some poor decisions? At what age did that start?
Probably about 20, 26, like that.
And did it start out? I mean, what type of drugs did you start out with? Did you start out selling immediately? Were you using to start with, or what was the path there?
I did use a little bit at first, but I guess the main thing I was trying to do was just survive and take care of my daughters. And then, the money comes around, and it just got out of hand, I guess. I mean, I'm not saying I didn't sell drugs. Yes, I did. Mm-hmm. Was I all that? Absolutely not. They made me Kingpin. I wouldn't snitch on my case when they offered me 12 years if I would snitch on some people. And it's not that I couldn't tell them the truth. That's not what the government wanted. If I say I sold 1 ounce, they wanted you to say you sold a pound or 5 pounds to hit a guideline, a higher guideline for them, as most of them did on me. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it'd been okay if I could have just told the truth. I was okay with that. But that's just not how the government runs. And they want you to hit a higher guideline where they'll hit get more time out of a person. Anyways, it's a horrible thing. And the conspiracy is a really horrible thing. Because being busted with drugs, actually, no, I was never on this case busted with drugs. Mm-hmm. I was a conspirator of phone calls or like the beeper number or whatever. But did they ever come in and get drugs from me? No.
So what type of evidence did they use? Or did your trial go to court, or did you end up taking a plea?
Well, I had a court-appointed attorney that was a prosecutor prior to my case. He came over to the next county and was an attorney for that 1 year, the year that I got sentenced. he quit, went back to be a prosecutor at the other county where he come from.
Wow.
So it was just a really scary, messed up, dark hole I felt like I was in. I just felt alone and scared. And they kept on saying, "Well, you're going to get life," and kept on throwing life enhancements on me and everything. And like I said, the first time they asked me for 12 years, plead out to 12 years, I told them no. I wanted to take it to trial. Then he told me 17 years. He came back with, "Well, you're not getting any lighter on you. 17 years. If you'll talk, and they're running out of time with you." Anyways, and he tried to more or less push me into it because I wanted to go to trial. And and he was telling my mother, and she's going to die in prison. If she goes to trial, then she has an enhancement, a life enhancement on her, and she'll go, to prison for life without parole. And that wasn't so. If I wouldn't have pled out, I could have fought my case back, And he had them so scared, okay. And then the last thing when they come up, they said, "Well, it's 30 to life. I mean, you've got no choice." And what would it be? And so I ended up pleading out to 30 years because I didn't have no attorney that stand behind me that wanted to push on my case. He was just like, "It was going to be like this or like this. You're going to do this or like this." And he was just more or less working for the government himself, So
he knew how the system worked from
the get-go
prosecution side, and
yes.
It's crazy.
And then he ended up with the DWI.
He ended up getting the DWI.
No, he did. A few years after I got locked up, I got my sister to try to contact him and see where he's at. And she said, "Well, he's locked up on a DUI, on DUIs." I said, "Are you serious?" She said, "Yeah." So he'd been locked up for DUIs. And so anyways, I never got to talk to him again or whatever, but
wow.
He went back to the other county when was a prosecutor.
So I just want to ask you about your mindset at that point in time. If you can try to remember back, you get sentenced to, or you're pleading out to 30 years. At that point in time, did you think you would serve that full sentence? What was your expectation?
To be honestly, I thought maybe I might do 12 years at the most. I really didn't know nothing about the feds, how their system worked. I mean, I had no clue. Mm-hmm. And I mean, after it got 12, 15 years, I thought, Terry Lynn, you ain't going nowhere. You're not going nowhere. You're just supposed to do this time here. And so then they did this 2- thing since my guideline hit so high, and because they put the Kingpin on me, and because it was the Anderson organization, that's what they called the case. And
so can you share a little bit about? I know I've had on guests previously who had the same Kingpin designation. I know it has to do with they tie certain amounts being sold to you. There's got to be different qualifications, right?
Well, way that he told me, I said, I'm not all that. And he said, "Well, this is what the deal is, Anderson. You knew the big guys with the drugs, and you knew the big guys with the money, and you made that little circle go around. So really you're the middle person, but since you make that circle go around, they call you the Kingpin." That's how I got the Kingpin.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and they did involve 2 of my sisters. They both just done 9 months in Bryan in '96. At a camp.
They were involved in the same case.
Yeah. Or they were trying to put them. They kept on pressuring me. With your family and this and that. And my husband, which I didn't know back then at the time, he was the first secret informant. He's the one that started the case off. And then I married him. I didn't know he was whenever I married him.
Oh, he started the case off before you got married?
Yeah,
Wow.
the year before, because they took it back 3 years before I got sentenced, and he was the first informant. There was 13 of them, and he was number one. He got 12 years, and I got 15, and I got 30.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what was he more involved in? I'm not sure what you're allowed to talk about, but
It's fine.
Was he more of a more involved in the dealing than you, or what's?
It was about the same for real. He just made me out real elaborate, like I was some big thing, and I wasn't. And I just think he had just kind of got himself in trouble or something somewhere down the line or something. Or I don't feel like he would have started a case on me like that. You know, I don't know. It was just. It was bad. I've known him since I was 12 years old. I went to school with him right here in Maybank.
Mm-hmm.
But he was the first informant, and just went on from there.
And what type of drugs did this center around?
Meth.
Just we go back to the sentence for a minute. 30 years for conspiracy, and then 20 years for laundering money. Was that also part of the plea?
It was together, so they just said 30 years altogether. They put it all together.
Gotcha. Okay.
And said 30 years or 360 months. That's what I got. When they said 360 months, I couldn't even calculate that fast. I was like, what? And he said, yeah, 360 months. I don't know why they don't just say 30 years.
It almost makes it sound like, I don't know, when you think of it in months, 360 months, it doesn't sound as bad as 30 years. It should be, you know what I mean? That's probably why they do that. It throws you off. You're like, oh, wait a minute. How long is that?
Yeah. In my family, there was my mom and my dad and the girls. They was in the courtroom whenever I got sentenced. And, she just kind of started mumbling around with her fingers, and she's going like, no. My daughter, she's a sweet thing. Y'all don't understand. She'll help and do anything for anybody, please. And I said, Dad, I turned around and said, please take her out. Please take her out here. Because, I apologized to the courts. I apologized to my family and everything there in court, and I told them, and I was sorry for wasting all their time and for putting my family through what I put them through. Because, that's just, and they've been right by my side. They've raised my twin daughters. They've taken care of me, the whole time I've been in prison. And, I couldn't ask for a better loving family, but whenever it crushed them, it crushed them. And then my, one of the twins, Brandy, she got locked up, 2 weeks after I got my clemency, and she got an indictment on a federal indictment, and she got 8 years. And she was the very last person on this. They had a case on some boy, and she was the very last person that they just, I guess, snagged in that case. Anyway, she ended up getting 8 years on conspiracy of drugs. So she's in Carswell Federal Medical Center right now, camp.
Man, that stinks. So how old were your twin girls when you went in?
12.
You ended up doing 23 years. You thought you said you thought 15. So
I never dreamed 10, 12 years. And then when I hit that 15 mark, I was like, okay, Terry, I need to start thinking about this.
For a completely nonviolent crime, nobody was harmed, and 30 years locked up. It's really insanity is what it is. Or 23 years served. It's insanity. 30-year sentence. So what do you attribute to while you were in prison? What got you through that time?
Just taking as many classes as I could take. I worked 24/7. Anywhere, anything I could do, I just did it. And it sure wasn't for the money because I didn't pay you none. But And just for a peace of mind, it kept me busy. I had to just just stay busy the whole time. I mean, I took change program. I worked in Unicore. I've just, I just stayed busy just as much as I could because you can't stop and think.
Is that something that you just picked up that you knew personally that you needed to do that on your own to keep your sanity, or were there other women in prison who kind of gave you advice or anything like that?
Well, yeah, there were some, you could kind of follow their lead that did just that, but just me personally, that's just, I guess I just really took it on myself, because if you just stay in there and just think, it'd drive you crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely drive you crazy. And I knew I had to keep my mind going. I had to keep my body going, my mind going. Well, I probably went crazy in there because it's, they call, it's club fed. Absolutely not. There's no such thing in this lifetime anymore that's club fed, because it's not. We do the same kind of time as the people that goes murders, that people that molest their children, the same kind of jobs, get paid the same kind of amount. I mean, there's nothing different from my crime and their crime besides what it says on paper, the way they treat you or anything, the time that you do. And half of them gets out before you do anyways. So these drug charges is just outrageous. I mean, you can go, I'm not saying do it, for God's sake, no. But, take down a whole family and get out in 10, 15, 20 years, and you can sell drugs and sit there for life.
Yeah. And I don't think the First Step Act even did anything for conspiracy sentences. I don't believe. So there's I mean, obviously that was a nice first step, exactly what it was, but there's a lot more reform that needs to be done, obviously.
Oh, absolutely. And they need more reform on, I know they have this RDAP class or whatever for, but they need more classes in these federal prisons that, even if it's psychology classes or something, to help a person just deal with their past and just to deal with their future, what they're headed for. I mean, whenever I got out, I mean, it was crazy. I looked at the cell phones and I was like, no way, because we had a big old bag phone right before I got locked up. It wasn't no little thing like this. And I mean, the world is so fast now, and it's just, everything has changed so much. I'm just saying, from then, whenever I come out, I was like scared to death. If it wasn't for my family support that I had, so good, I don't understand how some of these women or men make it mentally, because I was like so overwhelmed. And, they don't prepare us for that. They don't prepare you to get out, and when you get out and what you're, or maybe there's no preparation for it. I don't know. But I just know that I was totally overwhelmed. The world had changed so much, and it's so fast, and it's just a lot to grasp,
So it's been, it's been what, 6-7 months since 6 or 7 months since you've been out, right?
Yeah, actually, Friday, I will be on my home confinement. I'll be 6 months. So I had to stay in the halfway house for 1 month. And I got to come home. They give me home confinement for the next 5 months. And I can just, go to work and come home or whatever. But yeah, it'll be 6 months, I guess, on the 18th.
So you're on home confinement now. Are you able to work? Were you able to get a driver's license?
Yes, whenever I was at the halfway house, and that's the requirements. I thought halfway houses are crazy too, because you have to uh, get your Texas ID. You got to get your driver's license. You got to get a job. You got to get, if you want to come home, you got to have a job, a car, and a place to live. And they have to come and check you all out, and your family, where you're staying, and it's a big transformation there. But I mean, I've done it. I don't say a lot of them, and a lot of them don't do it. In those halfway houses, they, to me, they set you up for failure. And even like on this home confinement, when I get up in the morning before I go to work, I call the halfway house. When I get to work, I call the halfway house. When I leave work, I call the halfway house. And when I get home, I call the halfway house. And I have within 30 minutes, because I live like 30 minutes from my job, to get back home. And then you got to call every night at 9 o'clock. And then they call you back every night about 10:30. And then a man comes to your job every Monday or Tuesday, and he comes by your house between 7 and 10 o'clock Monday or Tuesday, one night a week. And it's just all the calling. I mean, I've been here and just absolutely just forgot to call, and I said, "Oh my gosh!" And I'll call you, and I'm just stressed out. And she said, "It's okay, Anderson. It's okay." So, I think I'm one of the best ones on their little caseload, because I'm just like on it. I'm so scared to go back. I don't want to mess up, but I know a lot of people can mess up, and it's real easy to. And they don't give you very, very much chance, and they don't help you. I don't know. It's hard. They expect so much out of you, but they don't help you get to where where you need to be.
Well, it's, I mean, you have to ask, did they really want you to be successful? And if you look at all the evidence, like as you were talking about before, you look at the education, are you getting any skills while you're in prison? Very little. I talked to a lot of people who spend time in prison.
Very little.
Some have access to more than others, but, in the grand scheme of things, you look at society today, 2018, I mean, you can go online and watch classes for free at an Ivy League school. And it's just crazy to think it's not a money thing, because they could easily set up educational programs, over the internet, in prisons across the United States. It would not be hard to do at all. It's just they either don't want to, or there's a conspiracy and they want people to continue to be cycled through the system. I don't know. It's either they don't care or it's truly evil. It's one of the two, because there's no reason that they're not doing a better job. If
it's very evil.
Really trying to reform.
And like I said, I took classes and everything, but so many of the same classes over and over and over the years that I was down. But just because they don't offer hardly nothing at all. I mean, I was there, 23 years, and there was just not a whole lot reform or educational, college, and all this stuff. They don't hardly offer you anything. And if they did, then they want to charge you for your books and for this and that. And these people that wants it or needs it, they can't afford it, So, of course, whenever I come out, I just so happened I had like a friend of the family, that a lady that had me a job. She said, "Terry Lynn, don't you worry. You'll have a job whenever you come out." And, after she knew I got the clemency and I was going to the halfway house and everything. And she said, I know how it is. I have a few people who works for me that's on probation or whatever. And she said, I'm here to give you a second chance. She's such a beautiful person. Mm-hmm. And, but, a lot of people don't have that. And a lot of people go back, and they go back because they don't have nothing, or they don't have no family, or, so they get back out there and try to struggle again. And, they fail, but the people know they're going to fail. So, I mean, it's just like a revolving door. But a lot of times it's not the people's fault. You know, it's not our fault that it's like that. It's just the government is so corrupt, and they don't help us out. They say, oh, they want you to accomplish, they want you to do big things. Well, you can say that all day long, but show it. Help us get education. Help us, do something with our life and not come back through these doors. Because I know I don't ever want to go back through those doors again.
I believe that. So we kind of skipped over your clemency story. I want to touch on that before I let you go here. So can you take us through how that happened? Were you applying for clemency for a while? Was it something you expected to get? Did you even see it coming? Just take us through that and obviously the emotions you felt when it did happen.
Well, I was, like I said, my dad, he's been sick with cancer. And I missed that 2-point thing. Everybody was, a lot of us going home on 2 points, and I missed it because I had that extra point. So I didn't get to go home on it. So I have a friend, Beth Cronin, that I knew from prison. And she told me back then we both had 28 years. Well, she got 8 years, and she got her time off when they did that 2 points. And she said, sister, I won't ever leave you in there. I'll fight with everything that I got. So from there, the next thing I knew, she got up with Amy and with Malik on the Can Do Foundation. So, I had all my family, I had her, I had them. Everybody was just supporting me. People everywhere, insurance companies, we had friends, family, or where it worked for, they was going through each floors. They was getting to make that phone call and get extra support on there. And then a lady named Ronnie Acquire, she helped out tremendously too. And so they all was just fighting. And I got clemency on the 19th, January the 19th, 2017. And I was right there it was so crazy. My whole body was feeling, I'm like, oh gosh, I got 1 day left and there's no more clemency for this year. Am I going to make it? I just wanted to get home to my dad. I don't want to see my dad before he died. And that 19th, they called over the loudspeaker and said, Terry Lynn Anderson, you need to go to your unit team. And we knew it was for them to tell us we got it or we didn't, because there was me and a couple other girls that had been waiting. And my heart dropped. And I ran up there and I went to her office, and she kept on fidgeting around. I said, what is it? Just tell me. And she said, I thought, oh, Lord, she's going to tell me no, because it was about the last day. And she said, no. She said, just hang on a minute. So she really wasn't allowed to tell me that I got the clemency. They were supposed to tell me, on the phone. My attorney, because they hire you an attorney, the clemency, when you go through there, well, they'll get you an attorney. So they'd got me an attorney. And so I waited on that phone call, and the lady called, and she said, I just want to let you know that you got the clemency. I said, oh my God, praise God, praise God. I said, I couldn't believe it. My whole body I was just shaking. It was just, all I said, I just need to use the phone. I was going to go call my family. I'm going to call my family, right? And so she said, well, okay. She says, calm down, calm down, and I'm going to let you make this phone call. Anyways, so she did. And then my dad had already heard it on the news. It was on the CNN or something. And he had told my mother, he said, babe, look at here. Her baby's on the TV. Her name's on the TV. Her name's the very first one. It was Terry Anderson, of course, with an A. And she jumped up. So they knew it before I did. So when I called, they already knew it. And they was just hollering, screaming, and crying over the phone. It was very, 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 I could still cry right now. it was very, very, very emotional. And from there, I mean, everything started going fast. I had to take RDAP class, and but before that next day, I got all the papers and I signed with the clemency and everything from the president and everything. And then they shipped me probably like a month later. They shipped me to West Virginia. I'm from Texas, and they shipped me to West Virginia to do that drug program. And they got me there 2 weeks too late to join that class. So I had to do another year down there. I've done 15 months altogether, but a year more for the class and everything. And I got the clemency and come home.
That's
Can't
amazing.
believe it, but it was amazing. Then as I was in West Virginia and doing the drug program, well, they called me and I had a phone call from my family and said my dad passed away. So I didn't get to see my pops, that's for sure, but he knew that I was going to be home with my mother. And so I know that was a big relief. Mm-hmm. And like I said, he'd been fighting cancer like over a year. He was trying so hard to hang on. But maybe God didn't want me to see him, like that, because, he was my big, strong daddy. I mean, and maybe God didn't want me to see him at that point, that weak, or in that fragile, and that, maybe not, I don't know.
Yeah.
But at least I know in his heart that he knew I was coming home.
Right.
And that's all he's always wanted, his baby girl to come home. So look what I did.
Well, Terry, you've been through so much, and I hear in your voice it doesn't sound like you're carrying some grudge with you. You sound like a happy person. What do you attribute that to? Why? A lot of people, and I think you would have the right to be really, really bitter about this how everything's unfolded, spending 23 years in prison for a nonviolent crime. How are you able to keep a positive attitude?
Well, I'm blessed I'm home and in good health, and I have my family, and just I love God, I love life. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a lot of women, or a lot of women and men that are still locked up and didn't even get the chance I got, at least, to come home, And I'm just so thankful. I mean, even though that I did stay that long, I'm just so thankful. I'm home now. I mean, I just feel like I'm blessed, and I can't run around here and be mad. Life's good now. I mean, I'm upset that I've missed so much of my family, my kids' lives, of course, and I won't ever get that back, mm-hmm. ever. And I miss so much, but I can't absorb enough of them. I feel like a sponge around them all the time. I can't absorb enough of them. This has been so long. I just can't get enough of them. That might not sound right, but I just can't get enough of them. I know they'll think sometimes, Mom or leave me alone for a minute, but I just can't get enough of them. I watch their smiles. I watch what they say, what they talk about, what they've done, where they've been. And, there's so much I've missed. I mean, I was 12 years old, my kids were, and, now they're grown women. They're driving. They got a job. And I'm not a grandma yet, but I like to be one. I know I could be a good mother, be a good grandma.
Yeah.
But no, life's good.
That's what I hear from grandparents, that, it's great being a parent, but being a grandparent's the best. Well, Terry, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story, talking about this, this really, this injustice that you suffered through. And I just want to give you an opportunity, if you want to say some parting words to maybe anyone out there who's listening, who's maybe has a family member or a friend or somebody going through something similar, maybe who's locked up.
Just never give up on your family, and your family, please never give up on them. There's light out there, and as dark as it gets, believe me, I've been there. But there's light at the end of the tunnel, and there's hope and there's faith, and that's what we have to keep when we're inside. I know that. And I just want to tell everybody I love them. Hang in there. Thank Malik and Amy and Beth Cronin and all of them for being so supportive of my family, for helping me get to where I'm at today.
Well, amen to that. And thank you so much for coming on the show, Terry.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I want to tell you guys about a new podcast. Friend of the show, friend of Lions of Liberty, Rachel Kennerly. She has a new podcast that focuses on cannabis. She brings on, much like Felony Friday, where I bring on people to share their story about their experience in the criminal justice system, Rachel brings on people to share their stories about how they've used cannabis to heal themselves, how they've used medicinal cannabis to find healing. The show is called Cannabis Heals Me. And on the show so far, she's interviewed a couple who has a child with epilepsy, using the cannabis to treat the epilepsy, someone with a traumatic brain injury, a lupus survivor, and a woman who has a medical condition referred to as suicide disease. They publish one episode per week. You can find the episodes wherever you find podcasts, or you can check out the website at cannabishealsme.com. All right, let's get back to today's show. Thank you guys for tuning in for another episode of Felony Friday with another great guest, Terry Anderson. I talked about at the end of the interview with Terry, I just can't get over it. No matter how many of these interviews that I do, I think it's 100% consistency. And I'll be going back through these interviews as I prep them up and get them ready to roll them out when we have our second Felony Friday feed. There's going to be an archive show on Tuesday where a lot of the older interviews are refreshed and repurposed and published again. So I'm looking forward to going through that exercise. But as I do that, I'm sure I'm going to notice, like Terry Anderson, like so many of the past guests on this show, a positive attitude. These individuals have suffered so much. Maybe they did make a mistake. Maybe they put themselves in a bad situation, but 23 years in prison for conspiracy to sell drugs, for money laundering, 23 years without being taught really any skills, without being prepared to come into the outside world and contribute and add value, and really being hung out to dry. And then at the point in time when you're in the halfway house, when you're on home arrest, everything is set up to make you fail, to suck you back into the system. And Terry Anderson did not let that occur, and she pushed through. And she's keeping a positive attitude, which I think is just incredible after all she's been through. So I was really happy that Terry shared her story with the Felony Friday audience, with you guys. I think we can take a lot from a story like this. I think people, obviously, if you have a loved one, if you have a family member or a friend who is in prison, this kind of encourages and reminds us we need to support those people. We need to lift them up. We need to remind them that there is hope on the other side, on the other end. Once they do get their freedom back, there is hope. But also, for people going through life and going through any struggle, going through any hardship, maybe you lost your job, maybe your business failed, maybe you've lost a loved one, maybe your marriage fell apart. Looking at these stories of people who have suffered tremendous injustice, who have spent 23 years in prison for a completely nonviolent crime, looking at stories like Terry Anderson's, how can you not look at this story? How can you not look at everything she's been through and where she is today, maintaining a positive attitude, and not lift yourself up, dust yourself off, and be a positive individual? Be ready to turn your life around, flick a switch, and start tomorrow. My father always used to say when I was a kid, whenever I'd make a mistake, whenever I'd screw up, that he'll say, you know what, John? tomorrow is the first day of the rest of your life. So no matter where you are today, if it's legal problems, if it's just relationship problems or job problems, no matter where you are right now today listening to this podcast, by tomorrow, by the time you wake up tomorrow, you can have a new lease on life. You can have a new attitude tomorrow. It's all a mindset shift. Life is difficult. Life is complicated, but a lot of it is between the ears. And once you understand that, once you understand how to manage life between the ears, that, my friends, is when things get fun. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that little inspirational takeaway. And I just want to remind you, if you like this, or you like this show, you like our other two shows, if you like us as people, if you think we're cool, maybe you can kick us a couple bones at patreon.com/Lions of Liberty. Get access to the bonus content. I just heard maybe my favorite piece of bonus content this past week. I wasn't on the show. It was my good friends Mark Claire and Rico and JB. And there's a show that we have for our Patreon listeners, some bonus content. It's called Conspiracy Corner. And they were talking about Bigfoot. And let me tell you, it was one of the best podcasts I've ever listened to. And I don't say that lightly. It was so enjoyable and entertaining and just a relaxing conversation, good back and forth. I don't know. Sometimes I kind of question, why do we keep these behind a paywall? Because it's good stuff. But if you want to hear that, you got to give us $5 to get behind the paywall. So check that out, patreon.com/Lions of Liberty. That's all I got for today, guys. Thank you so much for listening. This is John Odermatt signing off. Always remember to keep your head up and the fires of liberty burning.